Welcome to this edition of the Click and Pledge's Fundraising Command Center podcast, where we talk the why, the what, and the how in the Click and Pledge's ecosystem.
And this is it. This is the grand finale of our The Why series.
It is. We've been on quite a journey, really digging into the mythic structure of how donors engage.
We have. We've spent the last 4 segments using Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces as really our blueprint for the donor's journey. We've gone all the way from the first hook to the final ask.
And today, we close the loop. Our mission is to break down that 5th and final stage, return with the elixir.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the donor's experience, this whole stage is, well, it's really embodied in one single piece of communication, isn't it?
It is. It's a thank you.
The thank you. And we really recommend you don't see this as, just an administrative task. It's not just a thank you. It's this sacred confirmation of the journey you just asked them to take.
That's the whole theory of the return. And in storytelling, you just can't skip it. The hero, in our case, the beneficiary, they have to return home, changed, healed.
Why is that so important?
Because without that proof, the adventure was for nothing. It feels meaningless. If you don't deliver the elixir, the transformation isn't real. That's the psychological promise we're making.
Okay, so let's look at that through the lens of what usually happens.
Yeah.
Because I think this is where so many organizations stumble.
Oh, absolutely.
We ask the donor to be this incredible hero. They step up, they make the gift, and what's the first thing they get back?
A tax receipt.
A tax receipt.
And that, right there, that's the difference between a transaction and a transformation.
Say more about that.
Well, a tax receipt, look, it's legally required, yes, but its only job is to prove money moved from one account to another.
It's just paperwork.
It's the paperwork of a sale. It completely ignores the story of healing and victory that the donor was buying into. And if that's where the story ends for them, you've basically just said, thanks for the payment, story's over.
And the donor is left feeling like a customer.
Exactly. Not a hero, not a co-author of this amazing story. The narrative is just incomplete.
I completely get the emotional difference there, but that brings up a really practical question. For everyone listening, the receipt has to go out.
Of course.
So how do we deliver the required paperwork, but also deliver this proof of victory?
Yeah.
How do you scale the elixir?
That's a great question, and it forces us to get really practical about what the elixir even is. We recommend framing it not as some vague metric, we serve 10,000 people.
Right, the villain of statistics again.
Yes. Instead, the elixir is the necessary, tangible proof that the magic your specific donation started actually worked. It needs to feel personal, even if it's delivered at scale.
Okay, so we're moving beyond the standard boilerplate email, just thanking them for their generosity. We're talking about showing them the actual outcome.
We have to. It has to be visual and emotional. For a major donor, maybe the elixir is a short, unedited video clip, from someone on the ground saying, hey, because of you, this project is done.
And for, say, mass market donors?
You use automation to personalize the proof. If their gift helped fund a mobile library, the elixir isn't just a thank you email. It's an email with a photo of a child opening a book from that library. The key is integrating that evidence into the thank you. You're changing the message from, we got your money, to we achieved victory.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me, because that idea of specificity, it leads us right into the second big requirement here, closing the gap, finishing the story.
Yes. If you think back to the whole journey, the appeal itself, that crossing the threshold moment, its entire purpose was to open a gap.
We created tension. We showed them a problem, an urgent need. That was the cliffhanger.
Exactly. And we said it had to be specific, right? Not world hunger, but the fridge is empty. Or Sarah is stuck at the pharmacy counter. That was the pain we introduced.
And that's the specific problem the donor paid to solve.
Precisely. So if we open that very specific emotional gap, the thank you note can't be effective until it actively closes that exact same gap.
It has to provide the resolution.
It must. If the appeal was, the fridge is empty, the thank you has to say, because of you, the fridge is full. We have to complete that loop. That's the difference between a nice thank you and a profound, mythic resolution.
Okay, but again, the logistics of that. If I'm sending 5,000 thank yous from one campaign, how do I personalize that resolution for every single person?
Well, this is where you use technology for storytelling, not just for tracking. You don't have to track every single outcome for every single donor, but you segment your elixir delivery. If 5,000 people responded to the fridge is empty appeal, then the automated thank you trigger sends the fridge is full resolution template to all of them.
Yeah.
It lets every one of those donors feel like they finished the story they started.
So it's about narrative architecture, not just data entry. And we have to stress this. The thank you must finish the story.
Yes.
Let's go back to our example of Sarah to make this really clear.
Okay. So in the ask, in the last stage, we left Sarah at the pharmacy counter. The need was desperate. She had the prescription, but she didn't have the money.
That was the tension. That was the threshold.
And the donor's gift was the supernatural aid, the weapon she needed to cross it.
So if we just send a tax receipt?
The donor is left imagining Sarah is still standing there, stuck. The story ends in tragedy, or at least in this unresolved tension.
So the elixir, the thank you, has to show her walking out.
Yes. A simple photo, a line of text, something that shows Sarah walking out of that pharmacy with her medicine. The payoff isn't just knowing she got it. It's the proof of her movement, her healing. And the donor sees their direct role in that transformation.
That completely changes everything. The donor isn't just a line on a spreadsheet. They're a character in a completed, successful story. They actually participated in a victory.
And that's the foundation for loyalty. They know their last adventure with you was a success. So they're primed for the next call to adventure when it comes. They feel competent. They feel effective.
They returned with the elixir.
And now they can rest, knowing they helped heal a small part of the world.
So this deep dive really brings us to the end of this whole The Why series. Maybe we should do a quick summary of the full 5-step structure we've been recommending.
Yeah, let's do a quick flyover, connect all the dots for everyone listening.
Okay, so step 1 was the call to adventure. We said use flash fiction, those short, specific stories like the baby shoes example, to create that first emotional gap.
Right, that immediate singular empathy. Then step 2 was the refusal of the call. We have to anticipate that the donor's logical brain will kick in with what we called psychic numbing.
The villain of statistics.
Exactly. They retreat into the big numbers to feel less powerless.
Which is when we offer supernatural aid, that's step 3. So we said, the nonprofit, our clients, you are the mentor. You're the Yoda who knows the way.
And you provide the weapon, the solution that the donor, who is the real hero, gets to use.
Then we have step 4, crossing the threshold. This is the big moment. It's the ask, framed as a cliffhanger. The donor makes their gift, and they go from being an observer to being a participant.
And finally, what we've been talking about today. Step 5, the return with the elixir. The thank you has to prove, visually and emotionally, that the beneficiary was healed. The story is complete. You deliver that proof of impact right back to the donor.
When you lay it all out like that, you see it's really a complete emotional arc.
It is. The donor's experience is totally incomplete until that proof the elixir is delivered. The goal is to make them feel like they were part of a real, shared, mythic healing.
So this brings up a final, I think, a really provocative thought for everyone listening. It's about that tax receipt we talked about. We know the paper has to go out. It's a legal thing. But the question is, how can you transform the delivery of that piece of paper, that simple transaction, into the presentation of something sacred? Something like a transformative relic.
I love that framing. And we recommend thinking about the whole user experience of that final communication. Is your email just an attachment with a PDF receipt? Or does it have a link, maybe a QR code, that takes them to a 30-second mission complete video or a little dashboard showing exactly where their funds went? And then you give them the link to the receipt.
So the receipt becomes like an appendix to the victory story.
Exactly. The elixir isn't the paper. The elixir is the confirmation of victory that comes with the paper. It's how you package it, the language you use. You elevate the administrative into the mythological.
And that successfully closes this chapter of the donor's journey.
And it perfectly sets the stage for the next call to adventure. It's that sense of closure, that final message that says, we did it, thank you for your part in the healing.
For more information about this and all Click and Pledge products, make sure to visit clickandpledge.com and request for a one-on-one training or demo. Whether you are a client or curious about our platform, just ask us, and we will gladly get together with you to chat.
And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast to stay up to date with all the latest and greatest features of the Click and Pledge Fundraising Command Center.